So I am so excited. Not only did we get to go boondocking for the first time, which was actually awesome, but we got to see wild elk. Who would have thought you could find wild elk in Pennsylvania? And then we got to see what used to be known as the eighth wonder of the world. Check it out.
Kinzua Bridge, also pronounced Kinzua in the Seneca language. The construction began in 1881. In 94 days, more than 3 million pounds of cast iron was used to put up 20 support towers. But the viaduct soared over 300 feet above the fourth floor. At the time, the Kinzua Viaduct, it was the tallest and the longest railroad bridge in the world. It was called by many the eighth wonder of the world. The bridge offered a brilliant shortcut for transporting lumber, oil, and coal across the deep valley in the Allegheny wilderness to market in Erie and Buffalo. Due to gusty winds through the valley, trains had to slow to 5 miles an hour when they were crossing the viaduct. Weekend excursion trains provided a thrilling adventure for $1 per person. The demands of the marketplace increased, and trains started to grow larger and heavier in order to keep up, and the viaduct couldn't support the extra loads and eventually became obsolete. By May of 1900, only 18 years after it was first built, they began to replace the iron columns with stronger steel towers. In a few short months, the Kinzua Viaduct reopened for traffic, and for 75 more years, freight and passenger trains made the journey across this deep valley. Eventually, the trains became even heavier. The slow speed limit and the maintenance costs, they took their toll. The Kinzua Viaduct was closed to all traffic in 1959. 4 years later, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania purchased the viaduct and the surrounding acreage to create the Kinzua Bridge State Park. Sightseeing tours began in 1987. After decades of heavy use, the aging bridge showed signs of wear again. During a routine inspection in 2002, engineers found that sections of the viaduct had severely rusted. The park closed the viaduct to all traffic, and major restoration was underway when disaster struck. In July of 2003, an F1 tornado, with wind speeds reaching 100 miles per hour, slammed into the bridge, ripping 11 of the steel towers from their concrete bases. In the end, only 9 towers were left, looming over the mangled remains of the viaduct. Although partly destroyed by the tornado, the park reimagined the viaduct, turning this disaster into an opportunity to create a spectacular new attraction, the Kinzua Skywalk. Standing hundreds of feet in the air, the Skywalk offered breathtaking views of the valley below. The Kinzua Viaduct has inspired awe for more than a century. Today you can walk along the tracks that once hauled lumber, oil, coal, and passengers and experience this extraordinary structure that stood the test of time.
I'm afraid of heights, but it was really cool out there. I was afraid of walking on the glass part. Some kids were like jumping on it. I tentatively did manage to walk. We didn't go underneath of it because there's trails and stuff underneath that you can go on too. You could probably spend a whole day. There's bike trails and everything there.
Well, you could definitely spend, I would say, a minimum of 4 hours if you wanted to really walk around it.
It was, and I believe this is why they called it probably the eighth wonder of the world. It was an amazing thing that they were able to do, in 1881. And the amount of time that they did it.
Yeah. And the other thing that I was flabbergasted, I was under the impression this was first off originally a wooden bridge, and then one of the DCNR people out there corrected me when I mentioned that. And I wasn't aware that they built it first in cast iron, which to me is just unfathomable, because cast iron does not flex at all. So in the event of, for instance, even a minor earthquake, it would probably crack and crumble. But they shut it down in 1959, I think, and that's when they changed it over to steel.
So it was shut down for repairs, and they were in the midst of repairing it when that F1 tornado came and hit it. When they redid the bridge, the engineering oversight was they did not replace the bolts, right, and then they used those things.
They didn't replace the bolts, and I can understand why that decision was made. You know, it would have been extremely costly and extremely time-consuming.
Yeah,
the bridge would have been down, out of service, probably for 20 times longer in order to try and replace those bolts. And they would have actually had to have designed a method in order to accomplish that.
Yeah, and they redid that bridge in a record time too of 90 days.
Right.
So, but it, they admit that in hindsight, what are they called? Couplings?
The collars.
The collars.
Collars were not a good idea. But again, you're relying on the threads of an existing bolt that's already partially rusted away.
Yeah. Things I think that I was most impressed with, first of all, the building of it, and then the rebuilding, and the amount of time that it took. They did it so quickly. But then when tragedy struck, their skywalk idea I thought was brilliant too. Like I said, I was amazed they didn't charge, but did you say something about peanuts and lemonade?
Yes. You think the skywalk was brilliant. I think that the crews that were running the sightseeing excursions at $1 a head were brilliant. They had these water barrels on the train that you could get water from, and the crews would empty these water barrels before they would go out on a run, and then they would give free, very salted peanuts to the people, the passengers on the train, which would make them thirsty, and then they would sell them lemonade in order to quench their thirst. And these guys were making a pretty nice penny. Before we decided to embark on this last trip of ours, I had no knowledge that this bridge even existed. And I grew up, I lived in Pennsylvania from the time I was about 5 years old until I was in my 30s, most of the time.
Well,
and I knew nothing about this bridge. That western Pennsylvania, northwestern Pennsylvania, I have very little knowledge of the geography, the history, or what's there to see.
you know what, too, when we went out there, when they have local things nearby to do, I saw that there was this bridge, okay? I think they downplayed that, though. Because when you go there and see it and realize and watch the movie that's in there, there's a little movie, you can sit in this little like fake train and watch this movie, and they talk to you about the history of the construction and stuff. You realize how incredible of a feat this really was. And I don't think they played that up enough. I mean, what was it? The eighth wonder of the world. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it was considered. That's amazing. I mean, think about that. Right here in the United States on the East Coast in Pennsylvania. It's crazy. Be sure to check out our next video. We are going to talk about the Bigfoot and Paranormal Expo that we went to. We're going to talk a little bit about the Allegheny National Forest and the Allegheny Reservoir. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like our videos.